So good morning. It's a pleasure to be here today with Abdur Rehman Sheikh, who has just discussed his master thesis inside our specializing master contract claim in delay management in construction works with the title Front-End Engineering Design Endorsement under EPC Contracts. Is it sufficient to exculpate the employer? We are with him to know something about his experience in the specializing master.
Thank you very much, Giovanni. It has been a wonderful, wholesome experience. The specializing master has improved my skills and my confidence in dealing with contracts considerably. The format in which this specializing master is the format with which it is planned and executed is really good. The first module being that of the lessons, and the second module being an internship in which you apply the principles that you learned, that you acquired during the lessons, and then condensing it all into a thesis. I personally believe that it is one of the best ways to grasp the concepts involved in the subject, such as contract management, which is very, very practical in nature.
Thank you, Abdur. Talking about your internship, you made it in Technimont, where you're still working. So it also you had also the opportunity to go on working with the company in which you have made your internship, and of course written your master thesis. Can you tell us something about the contents of your thesis, maybe showing us some slides that you think are the most representative ones?
Sure, definitely. I hope you can see the screen.
Not right now. You should share the screen.
Yes, just
your
a moment.
position.
Yes, so
exactly.
You can see it now.
Yeah.
So my thesis.
You launch it, and so you go through 2 or 3 slides that you think are very interesting.
Yeah, sure. So my thesis pertains to front-end engineering design endorsement. The endorsement is basically a legal practice by which certain clauses are inserted into the contract which exculpate or exclude the employer's liability for the front-end engineering design, which is a document that he has created, and it might, contain errors and shortcomings. The thesis deals with the scope of these exculpatory clauses. What situations make these clauses applicable? What situations are there in which these clauses are immaterial? And it can all be summed up in this one slide. So when the employer requests modification to feed, you first check if there is in fact an error in the feed. If there is no error, it's a variation. If there is an error, then you have to check whether the employer's instructed modification meets the basic obligation of fitness for purpose or not. If it does, then yes, the contractor has to follow and he is not entitled. Otherwise, the contractor follows the instruction, but he is entitled to the net cost and the net time between the enhanced instruction, the enhanced design, and the basic obligation. Yes.
Okay, and there is also, I think, a slide of recommendation that you showed at the end.
Yes. Right.
Can you go briefly through this last slide?
So the recommendation that I have, the set of recommendations that I have for the parties is, obviously it's divided into one for the employer and one for the contractor. For the employer, it is always to have a contracting strategy whereby the bidders or the potential contractors are afforded enough time so that they can review the feed, so that later on, as few errors, if any, are encountered, um, or they could adopt a different contracting strategy by hiring the same contractor who developed the feed to execute that feed. That way, it's just since the contractor is also the developer of the feed, he is ultimately responsible for those errors. For the contractors, I have the advice to always be very careful and thorough in assessing their risks when they are bidding for a project. And I mean, it is absolutely imperative not to reduce the price just for the sake of winning the project and later finding yourself in trouble, especially with the cash flows and other problems. And then for both parties, there is an added recommendation, especially for large EPC projects, to have a standing dispute board mechanism, because these design disputes are very complex in nature, and it is not always very straightforward. So if the parties have at their disposal all the time a neutral expert, a lot of expensive litigation, arbitration, or even lawsuits can be they can be prevented.
Sure, sure. And as you said in the last point, an amicable agreement settlement is always the best interest of the project. For
Yes, yes. The best thing is, Giovanni, an amicable settlement. What could be better than two parties peacefully sorting things out? But then, if that cannot be done, then an access to a neutral expert is something that can be extremely helpful. And FIDIC 2017 edition gives a very good dispute avoidance mechanism, whereby the parties can even ask informally the dispute board about their opinion on a certain matter, and then they could resolve it amicably within themselves.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Abdur, very much. And of course, I hope all this information and tools you have received during this specializing master will go on being very useful for your professional career in the future.
Very kind of you, Giovanni. Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Thank you very much.